Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
Now, for those of you that are tuned in to the Apple or Spotify podcast, this is video. You get the video presentation of this. So you're seeing me in my studio. Yeah, you see my office, and my office at the garden center. And I'm overlooking some corrals. And I've got this beautiful layer of wildflowers outside my window. I look at, watch butterflies, hummingbirds. I've just cut those back. And so I'm getting them ready for spring. And now, if you see me looking off camera, I'm looking out my window in my office, and there's a pair, husband-wife team of roadrunners back there. They are loving that I cut back the wildflowers, and you can see them hunting back in between all the cuttings and stuff. I've got them up on the fence. I mean, it's fun to watch them. So roadrunners are a magical thing in Arizona. It's what we're kind of famous for, and they're pretty common. We see them all the time. You see roadrunners, especially up here, all the time. Gila monsters are the other ones. Scorpions we hear all the time. That's more of a desert thing. And who wants to see a scorpion? Come on. They're pretty cool. Horny toads. That's another one we're famous for. And we have a lot of those. Not as many as I'd like, because I like to grab those with the grandkids. They're always mesmerized going, oh, this funky little lizard, and you're willing to pick him up, let me pet him, turn him over, have him sleep while I rub his belly. We rented a house up in Durango last summer, and the horny toads were thick up there. The grandkids were in the hunt. Pop, there's another one over here. Get over here. Pick him up yourself, son. They're not going to bite you. So you kind of trade them. Anyway, okay, where was I going? If you see me looking off camera, because I'm looking at my pair of roadrunners back there, so it's kind of fun. Preparing soil. I am getting my garden soils ready for next spring. So I'm actively putting manures, mulch, compost, some fertilizer on there. I'm getting the soil ready. And so the last year's vegetable gardens have been pulled out. They're just exposed. They've been out, for a month and a half, 2 months, for a long time. Now I'm getting the actual soils ready. And here's the ideal thing for you folks tuned in. If you're hardcore gardeners, this is whether it's flowers or vegetables. If you've got raised beds or garden areas where you like to garden for those things, you need to think ahead about 6-8 weeks before you start planting, especially if you're going to add some real nutrients like manure. Manure is just such good stuff that for gardens. Plants just live on. They love that, but they tend to be hot. So they're very high in nitrogen. That's nitrogen. Remember, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. That first number is nitrogen. That's what creates kind of new, luscious leaves, big, fast growth. Tomatoes love it. Corn needs it. Fast-growing plants, dahlias will grow bigger, better, especially dinner plates. Your geraniums love manures in the gardens, but they don't like it right before I'm planting. You really do want to get this on now. Let it rest, settle. Put it on now, pray for snow. Let it just kind of even everything out, kind of get it all percolating in there. And you turn the soil over and then start planting just like that. And so I'm actively putting those things in. Here's what the book says. So you put a 3-inch layer of composted material on top of the garden soil, tilled down to 1 shovel's depth, or 1 rototiller, or however you're measuring, 1 disc if you're big gardens. But ideally, the plants used up that organic material you gave it last year. You're going to need to replenish that. And this is something that you're going to do every single winter. You need to add some freshness to that. Now, here's a mistake, a rookie move. I've made it myself when I was a new gardener. I see a lot of new folks coming in. The internet is crazy. I don't know why. Stop looking on that Google machine. It dumbfounds you, gets you the wrong information. They're telling you to add sticks, logs underneath your soil, add fresh leaves. Never add fresh, uncomposted material into your soil. It robs nitrogen, from your plant's roots. It actually stunts the growth next spring. You only want to introduce composted material into your soil. Please, for the love of gardening, do not put fresh manure into your gardens. It's teeming with nasty stuff. And then it introduces grubs and all kinds of crazy wormy kind of things that eat the roots of your plants. Totally, I've seen so many mistakes. You want to compost these things first off to the side, let it heat up, let it compost down. So compost pile will actually shrink as it composts. So the nutrients, kind of the humic acids and all the beneficial stuff that's there kind of increases as the mycorrhizal, the fungi break this material down. When it's down to its last core, you get like humic acid and nitrogens and phosphorus and all this rich stuff the plants love. You don't want to compost this stuff in the soil in your gardens directly, or it just totally messes up. It'll mess with you. You go, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They grew so well last year. No, they're not growing. It's because the plants it's composting there in the ground. So I'm adding composted manure, about an inch, another inch, maybe inch and a half, another inch and a half of just water's premium mulch. I'm adding my own material. So if I know what's in it. I'm happy with it. It's all organic. I know what I'm introducing. And I know that it's going to grow. It's not going to keep breaking down. But I'm trying to put that kind of generous layer of manure on top of the soil so it has time to kind of percolate and mitigate some of the nitrogen. That way, when I start putting my potatoes in, when I start putting in those root crops, rhubarbs and radishes and onions and garlics, all the stuff you start real early in spring, it's not going to burn those. It's not going to taint them. And so start now. I'm also adding, while I'm doing that, I'm adding some fertilizer, especially phosphorus. So I'm adding superphosphate, 0,18,0. Usually I'm putting the fertilizer down first. Then I've got a tomato and vegetable food. So I put that down. And then I'm putting my organic kind of composted material for the compost, the manures on top of that. And then I'm just letting it sit there. I'm going to let it sit there for a month and a half. And then I'm going to turn it under, usually at the beginning of February, somewhere in there. I got some time. I'll kind of turn it, kind of get it ready. And then usually by the end of February, I'm starting to plant. I mean, you can put lettuce, you can put spinach, you can put all those leafy broccoli, cauliflower, all those early spring things, especially at the Prescott layer and lower. You folks over in Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Sedona, you could probably cheat it even a little further. And so, but I'm thinking ahead. Always think a season ahead if you're revitalizing your containers. Really what I'm doing for me, I grow a lot of container things. So you really want some freshness in those containers. If you grew some big plants in that pot last year, I'm taking that top layer of potting soil. Is there, you're not adding manure into pots. That's just too rich. You want more potting soil in that. But I'm trying to add fresh potting soil. I'll take the first foot or so, 8 inch to 12 inch, and I'm taking that out and I'll add that to my raised beds, the big garden areas. So I'll just go, a little bit of that makes no real difference over there, but I need some fresh potting soil here. And then I'll take a bag of fresh Waters potting soil. That's our growers mix. And I'll top off that container. So I'm trying to transition the soils as I'm growing. So this year I'm growing it fresh in my containers, and next year I'll take that top layer, add it to my raised beds, or out there in the garden, landscape gardens out there, and then I'll add some freshness. And so then I'll add manures to my big raised beds, the bigger areas. And that seems to make a real difference. So if you struggled with consistency, they grew good this year, and the next year they didn't so much, it's probably because of the materials that you're adding into the soil. It's either detrimenting, it can hinder you, or it can really help. And so adding a 3-inch layer of organic matter and let it sit there for 6-8 weeks, and then go ahead and plant. It's going to be a game changer in your gardens. At least my name's Ken. We're just friends talking over the airwaves. It really works for me in my gardens. I think it will for you too. Be right back with more after this. Not everyone can grow wildflowers, but we'll make sure you're not one of them.
At Waters, we know which wildflowers sprout, thrive, and bloom with success.
We're wild about wildflowers with many of our own Arizona blends.
Like our Arizona native mix, butterfly and hummingbird mixes, and all are big, bold, and beautiful.
At Waters, we know wildflowers, and winter's a season to spread new seed.
Waters Garden Center, where people who love their flowers wild, they love to shop for seed.
You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com.